guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. If you guys are new here, welcome, and if you guys have already been subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for subscribing. Today I'm going to recreate a look that was available on Natasha Denona's Retro palette advertisement on their website. So if you guys want to see how I achieved this look using my old favorite products, then please keep on watching. So let's begin. I'm super excited. So I have a look in my mind, which actually Natasha Denona has it on her site for the new retro palette that was released. So the day that I'm recording this video, the Natasha Denona retro palette has just released 5 minutes ago. So she has put this image on the screen, if you guys can see that. And this is the look that I really want to recreate with the palettes that I already have in my collection. Now I won't lie, I already saw the palette when it was leaked in the internet, and that photo was disappointing. But when I'm seeing this on the screen right now, when it is being released, it seems a little more interesting. But saying that, I don't think that this is going to be my first Natasha Denona palette. Why do I say so? Is just because this palette is full of that mauve tones and burgundy tones, which I personally do have very similar palettes. I would say very similar palettes. So you can definitely achieve a similar look using Modern Renaissance palette and Sigma's Warm Neutrals palette. So do I need it? I don't think so. Can I achieve a similar look? Absolutely. So I don't think there's enough variety for me to go and buy a $65 palette, especially for the shades that I already have in my collection. So that's the whole basis of this video. I really wanted a Natasha Denona palette in my collection, and I was very excited for the retro palette. But by the time the pictures were released on the internet, I knew that this palette is not going to be for me, because the mini retro palette really spoke to me with those light pinky tones and with those, the murky green tones. Even though I'm not a green person, but with those pink and greens, I thought it was a beautiful color story. So I thought she could have done a little different for this palette and kept this her, Valentine Day collection or something like that. But nevertheless, we're going to do a full face of makeup using nothing new. Everything that has already been in my collection, already been in this industry for a long time. I've actually picked out a few things that I used to use back in the days, which I've not tried in a long time. So I'm very excited to play with those. So for the primer, I'm going to use my Smashbox primerizer and apply that on my entire face. I again have breakouts coming on my face. I don't know, guys. What's the deal with that? So once I've applied that all over my face, just for my pores area, I'm gonna use my Tartar Silk Canvas Primer, and I'm just gonna use it right in my center of the face. And this would take care of the pores, the texture. I'll apply a tiny little bit on my pimple area also, so that we just have a smooth base. Now I'm just gonna let it sit for a little while. Meanwhile, let's do our brows. And for the brows, I'm going to take my L'Oreal Brow Stylist Definer, and this I am in the shade Brunette. So let me quickly finish off my brows and I'll get right back. So once that's all done, let's move on to the foundation. I'm going to use my Wet n Wild foundation. It's been quite some time and I really like this foundation. And this I am in the shade Desert Beige, and this is the dewy version. And you guys can see it gives a good amount of coverage also. I would say a solid medium buildable coverage. And if you have been with me for a long time on this channel, you guys know I used to use this all the time back in the days. Very excited to play with this, and I feel it's beautiful. For a $5 foundation, this performs really good. I really love it. I'm happy with that coverage. Very happy. Now let's move on to the cream bronzer. I used to use this all the time back in the days. So I'm going to take my Wet n Wild contouring stick, and this is in the shade Call Me Maple. I'm going to take this. So creamy. If you guys have not tested this out, I highly recommend you guys to test this out. You would love it. And I'm going to keep it on real time just so that you guys can see how beautifully it blends onto the skin with like no time at all. Like you can see, I was like talking through the whole blending process and it's like already blended all across my face. I love that. I just love it so much. Now let's move on to the concealer, and for the concealer I'm going to take my Flower Beauty concealer, and this is in the shade Medium Honey, just to give a little more brightness on the center of the face. Have you guys watched any recent movies that you really like? I have no time at all. So I've been very bad with like catching up with like the recent movies on Netflix or Amazon, or yeah. So if you do guys have like good recommendation, I basically love like rom-com movies, I love horror movies, I love adventure movies. Those are basically like my genre. But because of my husband, I've started watching all sci-fi movies because he is big on sci-fis. But yeah, I really want you guys to recommend me movies which are like high-paced on the first half, otherwise I will sleep. If anybody knows me, they know that I cannot like go through a movie if it is like dragging in the first half. I cannot tolerate it at all. Now let's move on to the blush. And for the blush, I'm going to take my LYS Beauty's cream blush, and this is in the shade Confident. It's a beautiful, it's a very unique shade. It has a little bit of mauve in it, but it has a little bit of terracotta in it. So I absolutely love this. I'm going to concentrate this on the outer portion of the face. Look at that shade. I love that shade. And because that girl she has a lot of blush, the model in the photo, she has a lot of blush. I'm going to keep it a little more on the subtle side, but yeah, that's again still too much. And we'll see if we need a little more blush after applying powder, because I feel like in that picture she has more of a hotter pink blush on the face. I just wanted to keep it a little more on the subdued side. Nowhere subdued, I mean, yeah, but yeah, you understand what I'm saying. And keep like the center of the face clean, because that's what I'm seeing in the picture. So once that's all done, let's move on to the powder. I'm going to use my Maybelline's Fit Me powder, and this is in the shade 25 Medium. Long time not used, but love, absolutely love that powder. I'm going to take that on a big fluffy brush and just set the whole face. Now once we apply the powder, obviously the blush would subdue a lot, as you guys can see. I think we'll have to apply a little more blush, but let's first finish off with like the bronzer and everything, and then we'll see if we need to get back into it or not. For the bronzer, I'm going to take my butter bronzer. Look at this. I mean, do I need to even say about it? I absolutely love this. There's been so many things in the market, but we should always not underestimate our butter bronzers. It's so blendable. The shade is so beautiful. She has a little bit of like a bronzer, like a contour shade right on the nose. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to join it to my brows. And just fade it across my nose so that it's not like a harsh line. Because her blush is like so pink, I'm going to take my Pat McGrath blush in the shade Cherish, and this is like a good pink blush, and then I'm going to apply that like towards my outer perimeters of the face. Just take it to the temples, just like that. Don't panic, it'll all come together after we do our eyes. For the lips, what I see is like she has like a terracotta liner and a very nude lips. So we're gonna mimic that. I'm gonna take my Milani's lip liner in the shade 09 Spice. Fill it in a little bit. And I think for the lipstick, I'm gonna take my Baddest Beige lipstick from Maybelline and apply that right in the center. And she's more of like that fair complexion person, so it's gonna look a lot different on her skin tone rather than mine, but we can tweak it after the eyeshadow. Let's start off with the eyeshadow. I'm going to start with the shade called Burnt Orange from the Anastasia's Modern Renaissance palette and just apply that as my crease shade. I miss Anastasia creating eyeshadow palettes like these 14 pan eyeshadow palettes. I really miss that. I mean, those were the days when like people used to just go crazy when she used to release a palette. I'm going to apply the same thing on the lower lash line and just bring it out and meet it with the outer corners. And now for the inner corners, I'm going to take this shade which is called Red Ochre from the palette very lightly because it's definitely a deeper shade, but she has a lot of depth in the inner side. So I'm going to mimic that. Like just like that, and just blend it across. Now once we have that depth all built up, I'm going to dip into the shade called Love Letter from the palette. It can be, I can mix Love Letter and Venetian Red. I mean, it's not that of a different, but I can see more of like that pinky burgundy look. So I'm gonna dip into that Love Letter shade and then tap off the excess and just flick a tiny little bit right here in the inner corner of the eye, just to give it more of that pinky red look, just like that. Now once we have that all built up, I'm going to take the shade called Antique Bronze from the palette. Whoops. And I'm going to take that and build it more on the outer corner of the eye. And this has more of like that satin finish, like that. I'm going to take it down on my crease too. Just a tiny little bit. I'm going to mix this antique bronze shade with the pink shade right on the eyelid, just so that everything is like mixed together, and blend it out seamlessly in my crease. Now for the outer corner, I'm going to dip into the shade called Cypress Umber, and I'm going to take that. I know it's super deep. I'm going to tuck it in first on the outer corner just to deepen everything up, and take it down on my lower lash line too. And I'm going to join this to my crease too, just so that there's a little more of a deeper definition on my crease. Just for a center pop, I'm going to dip into the shade called Primavera from the palette, and I'm going to just pop it right in the center of my eyelid. Just like that, for a center pop on the eye. I'm going to line my waterline with this Essence Extreme Lasting Eye Pencil in the shade Black Love. And I'm going to do the same thing on my lower lash line too. And then I'm going to dip into that shade called Red Ochre from the palette and just blend my lower lash line. I'm just going to finish off my eyes by applying some black eyeliner, and I'm using my Wet n Wild Mega Liner. we'll come back to the mascara, but for the highlighter, she has like more of a golden highlighter on her face. So I'm going to dip into the shade called Rodeo Dry from the Ofra palette, and I'm going to apply that more on this portion of the face, on the high points of my cheekbones, on the bridge of the nose. And then let's just set our face. I'm just going to use my NYX matte finish setting spray. And then for the mascara, I'm going to use my Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. And that's how the final look has turned out. I really love the way it's turned. It's very unlike me to put like darker colors on the inner corner of the eye. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video because I had a blast. I had a blast creating this video, especially I've never done like, recreating a look using like a picture. And I am glad that I did it from the newest retro palette, advertisement. It's very glowy, but very me. So I absolutely love the way it came out. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have some pictures that you want me to recreate, leave it down and I'll be happy to recreate it for you guys because I loved doing this. And if you did like this video, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.